Hi there, you're watching Dukascopy TV. I'm Ben Jones. Back in the studio to give us his latest on the US is Patrizio Merciai. Patrizio, thank you very much for joining us.
Most welcome, thank you.
Now, I'd like to begin by discussing what you've mentioned with regards to the US. You said that growth is continuing to move forward, but it's downshifting. Can you elaborate a bit more on this?
Yeah, it's downshifting one notch, let's say, one shift, because, the US is still the fastest growing region in the world, but the pace is slowing down one notch. The reason is there is one sector which is slowing down a bit or consolidating, which is housing. Housing, especially for instance new home sales, have been revised downwards, and this is one part of the economy which has been very buoyant and now is stabilizing. So there's nothing worrisome, but it's still, the earlier pace is now consolidating a bit.
Okay, now with regards to the labour market, we're continuing to see growth. Is growth coming at levels that you'd expect? And additionally, you've mentioned that the Fed are keeping a close eye on voluntary job leavers. Why is this?
Okay, so first on jobs in the pace, the pace now of job creation is very, very good, very positive for growth. At the same time, it means that the Fed is watching it because of the timing of future rate hikes. And so it's a kind of, it's a double-edged sword in a sense, because obviously growth is there, but at the same time, the end of monetary easing is getting closer. So everyone is watching this, and it's true that if you look at job creation, and we'll see next Friday what will happen, it's now on a very strong pace. And on top of that, you have some indications which are still showing some slack in the market. Gonet Yellen has mentioned the slack in the use of resources. But there are also some indicators which are quite positive. For instance, as you mentioned, job leavers. People are leaving jobs voluntarily. This chart is showing this. It's not very much used as an indicator, except by the Fed and by some forecasters or some investors. Why? Because it's a good measure of confidence. Because if someone leaves his or her job voluntarily, it means he or she is confident to find another one, or perhaps the contract is already signed, So it's a good measure of confidence. And if you look at what happened last year or recently, earlier this year, it showed it was weakening. Even though the economy was growing, there was not that much confidence. Now it's picking up again, so it's a signal that the job market is getting traction and that workers and consumers are getting more confident. So once again, this is a positive for growth, but it also means, watch out, the Fed will not stay easy forever.
Okay, now Yellen has recently stated that social media stocks are in a bubble. Firstly, what's your take on this? And additionally, can you elaborate on what was said with regards to small caps?
Okay, yeah, it is quite unusual for the Fed to mention asset prices. Last time it happened was with Alan Greenspan, the famous irrational exuberance speech. So we have to watch out, we have to listen, But frankly speaking, I don't see much of a concern there. Social media obviously are fully valued, have high valuations, but earnings are coming through. If you think about Facebook earnings report last week, earnings are coming through. But what is also surprising is that actually social media stocks have not been rising. The prices have been consolidating. So I don't see any urgency in being alert to social media prices. So it's a bit puzzling here, really.
Okay, and with regards to small caps?
Yeah, small caps is even more puzzling, and that's quite interesting. If you look at it, okay, you have also Mrs. Yellen also mentioned biotech, which is in green, but the smaller stocks in the US, that's the blue line here, they've been actually correcting. So there is not much, once again, of a concern. And there is something this is something anecdotal, but which is worth mentioning. So if you look at both the biotech and the small stocks lines, the prices, those prices had been coming down until Mrs. Yellen mentioned them. And the day she mentioned them, they started rallying again. So it looks like the market is in a kind of a tug of war with the Fed saying, no, I want to prove you wrong, This being said, I would say that small cap stocks are not in a very strong position right now. And I would very much like to see them rallying further to confirm, let's say, the strength of the overall equity market. As long as they are in this kind of consolidating mode, I would be a bit more cautious on the equity market.
Fantastic. Patrizio, thank you very much for joining us.
Most welcome. Thank you.
And thank you for watching. Do make sure you keep clicking back to Dukascopy TV for plenty more updates and exclusive interviews. Bye for now.